Hello, everyone. Welcome to Genealogy Adventures. My name is Brian Sheffy, and we will be joined by Danya soon.
I'm trying to get up here. Hey, y'all. Hey. Well, as I stated, we do have a special guest, and our special guest, and we haven't had him on the show in a while, is Jonathan Dice. For those who do not remember him, Jonathan is a professional researcher, military historian, and genealogist. He sits on the board of directors of Reclaim the Records, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to providing public domain documents to the general public and monitoring records management practices in local, state, and federal government agencies and archives, which is what this show is about
Right
today.
on. Archives. Let's do
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. Thank you for
Welcome.
joining us. It's so wonderful to see you again.
I'm so happy to be here. It's great to see you.
And
Yes.
thank you for this last minute join.
Oh, no worries, no worries. I'm pleased to be here. Anything that I can do to show up, I'll do it. So yeah.
So, again, thank you very much, Jonathan, for joining us. Thank you, everyone who's tuning in, no matter how you tune in. And thank you for spending the next hour with us. And a shout out to our new fans and followers on TikTok. And as I said before, we've joined you live. If you're on TikTok and you'd like to be able to leave comments elsewhere, you can join us on our YouTube channel. So it's Genealogy Adventures Live, easy to find on YouTube. Click that live link and you will see the streaming episode. But to everyone
Yes,
else,
and thank you also to our followers on LinkedIn as well, because we do, love the new followers on LinkedIn. And we as always, even though you cannot comment, if you want to comment, definitely go to YouTube or to Facebook and leave your comments there.
so this is an important conversation because there's a lot going on at the National Archives and Record Administration. Otherwise, we refer to that as NARA. Between firings of the lead archivist, Colleen Shogun, there has been a number of senior staff who have done the early retirement route, and numbers now vary between 65 to 90 people have been fired overall through different NARA offices throughout the country, including those who are on that probationary period. Um, I don't know, people on probation seem to be the easy targets with this
Yeah.
administration.
I so the last word on Friday evening from staff members who shared information with me is that between 64 and 65 people were let go. There's a one person they're not sure about their status. Um, Colleen Shogun was asked to leave by the president, as far as I know. That's what she publicly said. I did not speak with her. She and I are not personally acquainted, other than the fact that I've met her once.
Cool.
Um, I really don't know anything about what she may have done during her administration of the archives that would have caused the president to let her go. But it's not unusual for a president to want to replace the director of the archives. That's completely typical. At least it was in the past. The previous archivist, Mr. Ferrio, was in for a very long time, like 12 years or something. So that was a very unusual sort of anomaly. He was a very excellent archivist. I knew him personally. I mean, I'm a little biased because I like the guy. He actually did a really good job as far as I'm concerned.
Mhm.
What's really sad is sorry, please, if you were going to say something, please go ahead.
No, it probably is going to lead into what you were going to say. I'm going to say, why is the National Archives important? And why are these positions, these roles within NARA important?
Well, the archivist of the United States can be a figurehead, or he or she can be a very significant leader. The National Archives determines what happens to the records that the federal government creates. And the federal government creates records only when it's engaged in transactions with citizens. So everyone in the country is involved with government records, and we're all in government records. So everyone has a stake, and the archivists represent our interests, determining what's important to save. None of us would be able to determine what's important to save because most of us can't even sort out our own homes. The archivists are trained to determine, yeah, no, we don't need to keep every request for leave and every request for staples and every request for toner cartridges. They want to keep what's important. They keep the historically significant records about government projects that affect real people and almost all the records of transactions of money. So all the money that we pay in taxes is recorded. How it's spent in the government. That's usually what it is. Follow the money is a very well-known research method, and that's because the records are kept in that manner. They're kept in sort of like they want to track what's going on with the money. They want to track what's
Oh,
going on with people, but only because they spent money making sure that that effect or incident occurred that they're recording. So yeah, they're very important. The archivists determine that. The archivists set standards. The archivists of the United States can lead or not. Often it's the deputy archivist of the United States and the senior executive service um, leaders, and then the bureaucratic GS graded staff below them that do all the grunt work. It's not very exciting. It's not glamorous. The glamorous part is maybe like curating the George Washington documents or something like that for that class of person that likes that sort of thing. But there really isn't a lot of glory. It's not very exciting or important work unless it conflicts with somebody in the government who wants to hide or change records or throw them away or hide, do something um, that is determined to be against policy or illegal with records. Then the archives actually has a place to stand up, and that's one of the reasons why the archives might be getting a lot of pushback right now, is because it may have stood up for what was right in the past. The deputy archivist of the United States resigned. Uh, William Bosenko had been at the National Archives for his entire career. He started as the GS4, ends up as deputy archivist of the United States. He knew everything about the National Archives. He was an excellent leader, despite what people might say about being disappointed with certain leadership aspects or not getting their projects completed or not getting promoted. Leaders take a lot of flack, but I knew the guy personally. I knew he sweated over stuff. I knew he was tormented over things. We talked personally about issues at the National Archives. It's not an easy job, and the fact that that guy resigned, he's a political animal. He's been in D.C. for years. He knows exactly how to maneuver. If he felt he had no way to maneuver, he would have resigned. He realized he had no way to do his job.
And I'm
He
also
was
going to
going to
say,
be replaced by somebody about half his age.
oh,
It was
wow.
just humiliating and just how could you live like that? You can't run your agency when the administration's against you. It's just not possible.
No, well, especially
wow.
when the administration is trying to literally hobble you.
Yeah,
But
I'm sorry to
having,
rant a little bit, but it's a very sad situation, and it's hurtful. It's
no, no,
hurtful. I
you
know
did
these
a
people. I
great,
mean, I
great
don't work
job.
there, but I know these people personally. It's hurtful.
You
All
did a great
right.
job actually contextualizing it. And I was just going to say that even though, I work for a Center for Family History, it's part of a museum. And I've learned a lot about the importance of protecting and preserving and conserving objects and papers and all of those
Hmm.
things. And as you said, that's not a glamorous thing to do, but it is important to make sure that future generations get the same access
Yeah,
to the papers and the
yeah,
objects and the things that tell the story.
yeah. I mean, I come from a family of archivists. My father was the archivist for the Smithsonian Institution for 25 years. He was the acting archivist and the deputy archivist for decades. Um, he may have been a mediocre archivist at times, but he was the archivist, and that doesn't mean he was. Like my father retired because he had an alcohol problem, full on. That's well known. But I come from a family of archivists. Despite that, I've worked in museums. I worked at the DAR library. I'm trained in conservation. My family does this, so we know what this means. This is a very important job that people do. Um, but it takes a special kind of person who's really patient, and often a person who's quite sensitive, and a person who understands
Mhm.
the significance of the long game.
So to lead
Um,
into the next part of the conversation, I raised the alarm not long after Colleen Shogun was just fired or left.
mhm.
Um, and I was kind of surprised because I didn't get any pushback. And I was really the first voice to like publicly cry out the way that I did because I immediately became concerned about the documents that were at NARA, specifically African American records, because we know this administration is not friendly at all to African Americans. well, to anyone who doesn't look like them. There are many records that are at risk. The being African American, those are the ones that I'm primarily interested
Hmm.
in saving, preserving, and and making sure that access doesn't change to them. I was really surprised that I didn't get any pushback. Some people thought that I was exaggerating or that the threat wasn't as imminent as I was making it out to be. How the tables turned a couple of days later when the JFK Library in Boston just got shut, um, the way that it did. I believe that library is now back open. But again, that was due to an
Hmm.
executive order, people getting fired, no one understanding or seeming to understand what the repercussions of that executive order was going to be. After that happened, everyone and their mother started contacting me. What can we do? How can we help? What support do you need? Um, is that my perception that maybe when I made my fears and concerns known, that was not early, but that people just weren't really registering that?
No, I think you know the answer. I mean, uh, as a black person, you have every right to say, "Hey, I'm seeing the warning sign. I know what this is. I know what's going to happen." And you're right. There's absolutely a danger of access being cut off, not because they're going to take some records and throw them in the dumpster, but because they're going to have no person there to help you. They're
Hmm.
going to cut money. They're going to cut access by not having the doors open. They might close a few days a week. I mean, the National Archives used to be open 5 days a week, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and on Saturdays, 9 to 5. They cut off Saturdays, then they cut off evening hours. So,
Hmm.
what if they decide to eliminate research services, which has not been eviscerated yet? Research services, which is the part of the National Archives, the largest part of the National Archives, which actually gives records to citizens that come in, mails copies to people, and maintains the records in the stacks, they have not been cut yet. Probationary employees there have not received the the cutoff call yet, as far as I know. No, as far as I know, that was Friday. So what could be possible is that subject matter experts could be eliminated, somebody that might know about African American records at the National Archives, somebody who's been there for years studying how the records are structured, so that when somebody comes in and says, I want to see Freedmen's Bureau records, or I'm interested in finding my ancestor who was in the colored troops or a Buffalo soldier. Do you want someone to just go, oh, I don't know, here's the book, figure it out? Or do you want someone that says, okay, I've done this 100 times, here's exactly what you do? And I've actually gone on myself and made box lists, and I've studied the records, and I've processed them, and I've looked at them, and I've held them in my hand. That's what we might lose. Actual people on the ground who can open the doors. I don't think the building's going to go away, and I don't think the records are going to disappear. Even during some of the nastiest political periods in our country, they haven't actually thrown the records out. Um, what could happen though is that as funding gets cut to other agencies who do their own internal records management before the records come to the archives, they might not be able to do their jobs. People that answer Freedom of Information Act requests might not be able to do their jobs. So you're just going to see things slow down. If it goes south, you'll see things slow down, kind of grind to a halt. You'll get the sort of um, uh, I don't want to characterize a federal employee like this, but in the past, when they were under enormous pressure, had no money, were not supported, didn't have the right services, they were grumpy, irritable, surly, angry, didn't want to give service, and in fact could even be vindictive or offensive towards you if you were not, you know, if you were in any way displaying displeasure. It could be difficult for you. I've been through all of these little uh, cycles at the archives. The last thing you want is poor leadership and no personnel there to help you. Everyone
Do you
there,
think they're going
I
to make a charge? Do you think they're going to charge people to go in there now?
I do not think they would charge for access, but what I think they would do is they could raise the fee for people getting access to records
The
by mail and
badges.
digitally and slow that process down a lot. Um, and they may force people to make appointments. So it may be such that, like, you have to set your research plans way ahead of time, and do a lot of the work yourself. We were lucky in that maybe in the last decade we had kind of the archives we wanted, and sort of the archives we deserved. The archives never became the world class research center we hoped it would be. When I started doing archival activism back around 2007, we started pushing to get the research center to improve. It did, and then it went down again. And then it improved, and then it went down again. It really changes every year with the budget. We keep up the pressure. Um, I sort of been laying off, for the last several years because of the pandemic, and also I've had some health problems that kept me out of the game. But you know, um, as soon as I go back to the archives, everyone wants to let me know what's going on. Uh, all I can really do is just let them know that we love them and we're looking out for them. My work with Reclaim the Records, unfortunately, our mission statement is not to save their jobs, but to make records available. So as far as what Reclaim the Records is going to do is, we're going to push really hard to get records released, um, no matter what the status of the archive is, and we will be unrelenting.
I
And
guess my main fear has been the only period that I can liken it to that I lived through, even though I was a kid, was Nixon's presidency, specifically around Watergate. And even though he was doing bad things and his administration were doing bad things, there was still kind of a tacit respect for
oh yeah,
the limits of the law. So I will say that for Nixon and his administration,
yeah, we
that just seems to
yeah,
have gone
me too,
completely
me
out the
too.
window.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in DC my whole life, and I remember all that period very, very, very graphically. Um, I do know an archivist who worked at the archives in the past who was one of the people that helped save the Nixon tapes. It was only by the action of archivists that these things happen. That's why we have them. If we don't have archivists and records managers, people will dispose of the records. Not because they don't want to hide things, but just because they don't care. They're just People generally don't keep they just don't think about it. They're more focused on their own business, and that's why we have archivists and record managers.
Yeah.
We need them to maintain the records that we can't be concerned about because we have other things to do. Most people don't keep the historic records of their lives. They're lucky if they have a box of photos and some, report cards and, things like that. It's just not really possible. That's why we build record centers and have warehouses and stuff. We need this stuff. Um, how else can you fight the government or prove that you've ever been cheated if there's no records? How could you prove or how could they prove that you cheated them for that matter? I mean, they need records too to enforce the law, and we need records to enforce our rights.
Mhm.
um that's exactly what it's for. They enforce the law and they keep a record of it. We ask for our rights and we keep a record of it. I mean, or they keep a record of it there because we demand they do. um yeah, I don't mean to be preachy, but God, it's really so important. It's just so important, and we really are in danger. We're just in danger of losing the people that love what they do because they're being so viciously attacked. And, if they can't feel secure in their jobs, they're going to leave. And federal jobs may be the most secure jobs that you can get outside of some, particular occupations. But it's, and some people think, well, why do they get so much security? Why do they deserve that? Well, everyone deserves that. They have the kind of security that everyone deserves in their job. And so it's sort of like it's sort of the standard of what I think we all want, right? We all want a lot of support. There's a lot of support personnel in the federal government because they want to make sure the job gets done properly. We demand they do the job right. And when they don't do the job right, we lose our minds.
Mhm.
Obviously, people are losing their minds because they think the government's not doing their job right. Um, I would challenge anyone to look at any organization they work for or belong to and ask how hard it is to get something done.
And
How hard it is to have a meeting and work with people and have them go do exactly what you want them to do and get it done perfectly and turn it in and have it all work. Uh, it, it's 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 a circus, right? We all do. So yeah, government's a circus, just like everything is. It's all people, man. Just people.
and I just want to quickly respond to a question theme that I've been asked for over the last 4 days. I've had a
Oh yeah.
lot of people, a lot of genealogy adventures people specifically, but again, people, professionals from within my kind of field, archivists, genealogists, family historians. They're like, "How did you know? How did you know that these records were kind of going to be under threat?" And the only thing I could tell, I don't have a magic ball. I know people who work inside of NARA. They weren't telling me this because they didn't even know this at the time. All I could tell them is I was paying attention. I've been paying attention to this administration since before the last election. They
I mean,
call
how
me.
could they not have been paying attention? Everything that's been going on, all of the different things that's been happening, all of the stuff that they've literally been attacking every agency left and right overnight. Because everything that you wake up every morning and it's something different. It's
Hmm.
something's different. Something has happened. Something has gone on. If y'all not seeing it, then you must be waking up under a rock because it's always something different. So
Yep.
who's not seeing it? How did you not know? I don't even understand. How did you not know?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I've been kind of depressed over the last several years because I feel like no one's been listening to me. People tell me I'm nuts. I'm like, this is a
That's what
really
it was
dangerous
me.
situation. Maybe the last 4 years were an easy ride, but everybody was all like, oh, we're all in love with everybody. But and love is great, and that's the focus of my life. But we're not getting it in return, and what do we do? We need to work hard to keep defending what we have, and and acknowledge when people are being thoroughly vicious, racist, just kind of it's the most mean-spirited activity I think I've ever seen in my adult life. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm scared. I'm scared. Yeah, I'm scared. I'm concerned. I'm worried. Um, it's a point where like it's even splitting up my social life. Um, I I I I I'm a gamer. I play role-playing games with some high school friends online once a week, and it's actually causing a schism in our group. And we're not political, but it goes deep, right? It goes deep, and when somebody is of a certain ilk, you call it out, man. When someone's got the white hood on, I'm done. We have to move on and stand up for what's right. The records are in danger, um, in a sense, because one thing that a lot of us genealogists, researchers, historians don't think about is what happens to the records before they come to the archives. And you're right, the agencies are under threat. And if they cannot maintain their records management standards, that's the other side of archives, records managers. They're archivists too. They just don't have the capital A archivist title. They're the ones that maintain the records at the agencies that we are seeing being attacked. The agencies that we're seeing being eliminated. What happens to the records of an agency that's totally eliminated? Well, we don't know.
Mm.
I guarantee you that nobody knows because it's been a while since an entire agency got just thrown in the garbage. A friend of mine works for the National Science Foundation. He had like 160 people go. Like she's floored. Like, I mean, she didn't wasn't let go yet, but she's floored. A friend of mine works for the Census Bureau. He's a high level guy at the census. He's been there 8 years. He doesn't know what's going to happen to him. I mean, it is. It's up. I mean, yeah. What happens if the guy that maintains the servers at the census loses his job?
I
What
never even
happens to the
thought about that.
92 petabytes of data that they're maintaining? 92 petabytes is what a number that I heard one time. That's a lot of data. It's not on paper, it's on hard drives. And what if the guy that runs the server farm loses his job and it's not contracted properly? Or what if they hire a contractor to do it and they don't do the job right? Nothing happens with the contractor. They just don't get another contract.
And
And
again,
the project
that's a
gets
good
screwed. It's
point,
like,
Jonathan, because a lot of the names that I'm hearing being floated to head NARA to fill in other roles don't At least as far as I'm aware, I haven't seen evidence that they actually have the credentials to be in those posts.
Well, I mean, yeah, there is no credential to be an archivist of the United States. There's been people that are librarians, historians. Mr. Ferrier was an archivist. I mean, was a librarian. I mean, Shogun was just a historian and an author. I mean, I don't know what her qualifications were. So, I mean, the guy that's the current acting assistant, um, I know nothing about him other than that he's only been at the archives for a short amount of time as far as experience is concerned. You're right. I don't know anything about him really.
Mhm.
So I don't really need, I feel like I don't know if I could say anything about I can't characterize him. I just don't
No,
know anything
me
about him.
neither. My
But the staff is
overarching,
not happy. The staff's not happy. They
my
feel, like, they don't feel happy with him. So
I'm not saying that this is going to happen. I'm not even speaking this into existence. The nightmare for me, and we have precedent for this, is like a Franklin County, North Carolina, where records weren't preserved the way that they should have been. I think they had gotten locked away and they were found like 20 or 30 years later.
yeah,
They were in poor state of repair.
yep,
They could have been saved. They could have been
yep,
preserved. It would have been expensive. I'm not lying. They had mold and mildew and all that kind of stuff.
yep,
What did they choose to do with those records? And these were old records, property records, probate records. They burned them. Even to this day, when I have a private genealogy research client reach out to me and they say, "Oh, I've got deep ancestry in Franklin, North Carolina," even though I live in Michigan, I'm like, "Are you sitting down? Because I need to tell you something
yeah.
about that county." That is my kind of
You're
worst nightmare in
you're
this
not wrong.
scenario.
You're not. Your fear is completely legitimate. Um, this could be a black hole for a while. There's been predicted for a while, for quite some time, that the current, that since maybe the last 10 years is going to be sort of a digital black hole as far as records are concerned, because there was no standardization for keeping things. So, if the National Archives is receiving electronic records, but they don't have anyone to maintain it, you're right. What happens to the hard drive? What happens to the records? And when they scan the records at the agencies, they're going to shred them. So if there is an imperfect digital copy and there's no physical copy, there's no
Hmm.
copy.
The way y'all got me just like shaking my head and my face, and I don't even know what was said because it dropped for me for a second there, and then I come back and Lucretia is like, "What? I don't even know what was said."
Well,
And
I was talking about how Franklin County, North Carolina, purposefully destroyed a lot of
oh,
the old
yeah,
records.
I knew
Yeah,
about
I
that.
mean, records managers are put against the wall. Their backs are against the wall, and they're the bad guys that have to take the fall for these shitty decisions. It really comes down to the fact that they probably did beg vociferously for money, but they may have not had the skills to raise it. I mean, not everybody is a fundraiser, and nobody stood in to help them. It's like, and then they had to make a terrible decision. Do we give them to a historical society? Do we preserve them, or do we burn them? And it's possible, like in many local areas, there's no one around to come to their aid, and they're left just sort of like. So I'm not trying to characterize what they did as like good, but I just know that a lot of records managers are put in a very unenviable position of having to be the bad guy to do this. Um, as a coming from the family of archivists, my father's had to throw. My father would tell me stories about having to go pick up records from a collection and only keep like one notebook out of like 100 because the rest of it's not relevant to the collection. And it's like you can't keep it all, and there's not an arc. It'd be great. What would really be amazing would be something that was like an archival network that was like, this is what we need, and another network that says this is what we have, and the two things can come together and they can trade off stuff. Now, the only place that seems to happen is the auction house world. It would be great if it happened in a more like uh, a beneficial way that was sort of like, more of a trade. Museums and zoos trade stuff all the time because it's sometimes illegal to trade items on the open market. So they do barters and trades. There's many ways to get things, but it's really difficult for archives because people don't care about paper as much as they care about artifacts. If you have a musket or a flag or a bell or a log cabin to save, everybody's romantic about that stuff.
Give
But
me my
records are
family
different.
stuff. I'm all for it. You can
For what?
give me my family stuff back. Cause I know the Smithsonian has a picture of my uncle and his first wife that was taken by the now famous black photographer Addison Scurlock. The Smithsonian has it. Give
Yeah.
it to me. You can give it right on to me. Give it back because it's priceless.
You they can by act of Congress. If Congress says give it back, they can.
Give
The
it
only
to
time
me.
the
I'm all
Smithsonian
for
gives
it.
any the Smithsonian has a terrible record of doing stuff. So I'm communicating with somebody who's been doing research on people from the Philippines that came here in 1904 for the World's Fair, and in St. Louis. They were all dressed up as natives and like made to live in some sort of like Stone Age village. And it was like told that they ate dogs and were cannibals and stuff. A number of them died in St. Louis, and their bodies were taken by the Smithsonian for study and were kept there in Washington, kept in Washington D.C. in storage, or in Suitland, Maryland, or wherever they had this stuff. And when it was realized that these items were there, the Smithsonian sort of tacitly acknowledged they were there, but then sort of somehow destroyed them, or they got destroyed, or so it's a slippery situation. I don't know. Museums are trying to shed themselves of owning artifacts, but at the same time, that's what a museum is.
Right.
So it's like, do museums shift to? I don't have an answer to this at all. It's still a debate, and there's many different arguments to be made in different directions. I mean, I've worked in museums and stuff like that too, but it's complicated. I don't know. I don't have an
But
answer for
we're
that.
we're we're going away from what we
Yeah,
originally
we are. We are. We're
started.
sorry.
So,
So
It's related, but you're right. It's a tangent. I'm sorry.
right.
It's
one of
archives,
my
records management, archives. We need to stay focused on making sure that our opinions are transmitted to the records management officers at the agencies. I would say contact them directly. It's been successful.
and there's also action, and I want to spend just a couple of minutes outlining an
Sure.
action that I'm taking. Um, I was so concerned about this, Jonathan, I'd like to get your feedback at some point about how this can be adapted for similar projects for other records. As I said, I'm transparency here. I'm African American. It's the African American records that I'm specifically interested in, and even more specifically, the United States Colored Troops. My museum, the Center for Family History at the International African American Museum, we're a small team, we're a small museum. We can't do all of the Black records, and we can't do all of the records. To be honest, if we get even 30% of the estimated 30,000 USCT pension applications, I'll consider that a success. Um, but it's very much community driven, and we're calling it the Community Digitizer Volunteer Project. And coordinated online. There'll be like a whole portal that'll step you through how to do it. That has links to various NARA information sources like that course. Before you can't just stroll into NARA and say, hey, I want to scan documents. They need to know that you know what you're doing, that you know how to properly handle the documents, all of the do's and don'ts of being in that space. Everything from you have to lock things in a locker, you can't have water, you can't have gum, you can't have food. For people who aren't used to being in a library setting, and even for those who are used to a library setting, this is like library setting times 10. Um, so there's all of these kind of processes. We're going to share links out to these various things. So there's a lot of people who we have almost 400 volunteers. They have come across from all parts of the country, Alaska, Hawaii, the West Coast. We even have them from Guam and Puerto Rico. It's like, I can't
Wow.
digitize, but anything I can do for the project, just let me know. So again, There's a whole portal. There's a calendar, a shift calendar for five people to sign up for a morning shift, five people to sign up for an afternoon shift, because again, we don't want to overburden the NARA staff.
So what are
Um,
we showing first, Brian?
if you want to show the landing page on the site, and we can just because everything is on that one page.
Okay.
This sounds great.
I sent you the link late, so I don't know if you got it, but I did send you the link.
There we
There it
go.
is. I see it.
So, yep, cookies are fine. See, everything is above board. You can deselect cookies and all of those good things. We want to, this needs to be approved so we can just fast scroll through this. There's our partners. We're partnering with Family Search, 10 million names. There's other partners coming on board to help us
What's
get
Family
this.
Search helping with? Are they going to do indexing and maybe support the documents on their on their servers?
A volunteers scanning squad.
Nice.
So,
That's an
the,
amazing asset. Family Search is such a unique player in the game. I much appreciated.
So the museum we actually started as part of our archive. We already have 500 USCT pension applications up there. We have another 1,500 that have been digitized that we're pulling the metadata through to be able to upload that with its metadata. So it's kind of building on to what we already have, but we will be donating everything to Family Search for them to put on their site. And 10 Million Names already has a link in their kind of portal to our archive. But that kind of gives so yeah, we can go through the project overview because all of this needs to be signed off by my museum's executive. Can you scroll through that really quick? I don't
Which
want people
one?
to, I don't want people to read it. They can't read
Oh,
it. You've got to go.
okay.
So these are the three main record groups. The museum in my project is specifically focused on the USCT pension applications, but there are large African American genealogical and historical groups, and I would invite them to do a similar type project. One dealing with Buffalo soldiers. A lot of work was done on that a couple of years ago. Bernice Bennett was she knows a lot about that, and she probably knows where things are in terms of that project. There's a much larger one, the African American Homesteaders Land Files, which is part of the National Park Service's records, but still held at the National Archives. The issue with that is there's no racial designation in the land files. We have the full list of homesteaders, and then we need researchers, and this is something that people can do from home. They don't even have to be anywhere near the DMV area to actually take that list and name by name find them in the 1870 census and find the Black homesteaders. That way we can build a specific list just for the Black homesteaders, and then people can go in and pull those lists. But those two, the Buffalo Soldiers and homesteaders, that's not anything that would be part of my project. We're just being very focused, and as I said, trying to put a dent in 30,000 files is enough for any one organization. Can you scroll down a little bit further? So this is where the course bit sits. So that first one that's marked mandatory, that is NARA's course. That is their researcher orientation course. It will step you through their process, what you have to do, things like you need to have a reading room card. You need a little ID card. It's free. Information about how to get that is in that course. There's advice for planning your visit. So that's things like the NARA address and operational hours for the DC NARA, as well as College Park. A couple of people have stepped forward who live in and around St. Louis who have offered to go in and digitize those. So I'll be putting that NARA's address and details up in that bit too. Familiarizing yourself with the file pull list. That's more down towards the bottom of the page. We do that part. I believe we're starting with the Massachusetts 54th. Um, Requesting records at the NARA Research Room. That's a kind of short summary version of what you'll be taking out of the course. I'm a big believer in information redundancy so people can get it in more than one place. How to handle the files, how to scan and save the files, and then uploading your scans. So basically, every volunteer who's a digitizer will have their own unique Dropbox file. They scan them at the end of their scanning session on their, we're advising people to save everything on a thumb drive. They just upload it to their Dropbox. And is there anything further down? Oh, yeah. So if you go a little further, there is the current pull list. I just need to put some scaffolding information about that. And then like I said, there's the volunteer sign-up calendar. So we're trying to think of everything that people can hit the ground running. For all of you who have asked to volunteer, for those of you who already have your reading room card, have already done the course, you know the rules and regulations of NARA, and you live in the DMV, please send an email to CFH Charlie Francis House at iaamuseum.org. Let me know that you are fully ready to go. You will be part of cohort 1. You can go straight into NARA. So long as you can tell me that you do have a card, you are fully conversant. There's not going to be an issue with you going into NARA like next week if necessary. Everyone else, you'll need to do the course. It's like I said, the last part of it's being built tomorrow. People's email addresses are going to be uploaded into the system. We're using the platform to communicate, and you can communicate with us. So hopefully that is self-explanatory. But as I said, blown away that nearly about 400 people have actually reached out. And again, we'll be having volunteers create pull lists for us. We need volunteers, again, from all over the country that once the files are digitized in PDF format, we'll give you 2 or 3. You'll need to read through them. You'll have an Excel spreadsheet, and you'll have clear headings and examples. You need to put the metadata in. So metadata are basically names of people, names of places, the soldier's name, if he had any aliases, his wife's names, family members' names, enslavers' names, where they were born, when they died, where they died, all of that information. That's how people are able to find the records in our archive. So there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of different things that people can do. So as I said to the lady who's in Anchorage, Alaska, oh yes, we can use you. Doesn't matter that you're nowhere near the DMV. There are such important things in terms of this project that you can help us do. And I try to create this kind of training platform and volunteer platform in a way that is easily, I'm going to trip on this word, replicatable, replicable, to adapt to something that they want to do. Because again, there's all kinds of records that are at risk. If you're a Japanese American and you want to document the Japanese internment camps, find where those records are. Get a group, go in, digitize them. Just make sure that you follow the rules and regulations of whatever office you're working in, whatever NARA office you're working in. If you're Native American and you want to preserve Native American related tribal records about your tribe, get going. We're behind. We really are behind the 8 ball. I cannot stress that enough. There's Chinese Americans. There are Chinese American related documents, not just related to the railroad work. There are immigration records and all of the historical records about that community. Get in there. Digitize those records.
Mm-hmm. You got to make the day your day, because otherwise every day is White History Day. Got to make it your day. You got to get in there and show that those records exist, because otherwise no one's going to pull it.
And I like how you said that.
Gotta get kicked in the ass, And
I like how you said that, every day is White History Day. It ain't all the time that they share Black history and learn that information. And I like how you really just pointed that out. We have a lot of questions, and I want us to be able to get to those questions, especially about this, but we want to get to those other 2 links that you wanted to share before we get to them. So let's get to those real quick.
Yeah, and while you're queuing up the first question, another group, sorry, it's on my notes, I forgot to give you guys a shout out, Spanish-speaking Americans. Y'all know you've had history from Florida to California up to Nevada. All those places with Spanish names, there are Spanish colonial records. Y'all need to organize, get in there and scan them. I think I covered all the major groups.
Yes, you did. And then because we want to also, because there some of these questions that are out here are also talking about how can they help hit the state and local archives. Do not forget those because they need to be done. That's how you can help. We got to get those state and local archives. Go and do the exact same thing that he's talking about doing. And can they now, Brian? Can they drop them in these same places on here, and then they go to Family Search? No.
Oh, sorry. Yes, yes, they can.
So yes,
Yes.
you're just doing the state. You're not doing them at the National Archives, but you can still go to your state and your local archives, grab these same types of records, drop them in these same portals on this same website that we did. I've placed the link there. I put the link up here. And that's how you can help. Even though you're not in the DMV, you're getting them on the state level. That way it's gonna go to Family Search, and it will get it'll be saved. The record will be then saved and will
And
be able
also,
to get them.
don't trust the people that write the finding aids and the indexes to indicate what's there. You got to
Mm.
go in and look. You will find Black people everywhere
Hmm.
in America
Mm.
because Black people have been everywhere in America.
Mm.
And if you don't believe that,
That's
we
just a
have.
fact. I'm sorry if anyone's not up to date on that. That's just so get in there. You'll find it.
And if anyone doubts that there were Black people all across this land in every period of its history, watch 8 seasons worth of Genealogy Adventures Live, because we talk about the West Coast, people there before the gold rush, just everywhere. We were everywhere.
Yep, I recently highlighted for a PBS show a soldier from Afghanistan that fought in the American Civil War.
I saw that. I want to talk to you about that. I was talking to Brian. We're going to get on that. I think we need to have her on the
And
show. We would love
another
that.
time. Well, let me rant
Yeah,
another time.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll go.
definitely,
Let's get
definitely.
to your link to make sure we get all your stuff covered. I took up a
Okay,
lot of
so
time
the
preaching
other
and
thing that we
doing my
wanted to
John
post
Brown here.
about, definitely. So the other thing we wanted to post about, because Brian and I have realized that with everything going on in this world today, Genealogy Adventures is about to go political. We actually had this whole discussion, and if this is going to bother people, because we know it has come to us in one way or another on different comments saying, I thought this was a genealogical show. It is a genealogical show, but it's
Listen,
also historical.
can I just jump in real quick?
Mm,
We're in a coup, and people need to wake up to the fact that we are in a coup.
we
You
are.
you can have the freedom to bury your head and pretend that what's happening isn't happening. People who look like us, people who don't look like white people, or even white people who have views that are unpopular, yet we don't have that
Mm-hmm.
luxury. I have
Well,
officially
white
raised.
people are okay. I'm gonna say something very dangerous here. White people, as far as their own kind are concerned, are cannibals.
Oh, oh,
They're
okay.
cannibals. They don't care. There's no sort of white club. If you don't say what they want you to say, they reject you too. It's only through privilege that I can be ignored and slip through the system.
That's a fair point.
And
I,
it's
If I
very,
want to be a coward, if I want to be a coward and slip through the system, I can do that.
mhm,
But it's too late.
yeah. I just want to
the
say,
thing is what he's saying is so true, because when you think about lynchings, do y'all really know who the first person that was lynched? It was a white man. His name was Billingsley, off of the Mayflower. He was white.
Yeah, those
And it
people
was,
also lynched a Quaker lady.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So this is a what he's saying is a real thing. It's a real thing. During slavery time, they lynched white people because they helped black people. So you need to understand, it is at this point that a line is being drawn. You're going to be on one side or the other. And it is because of this reasoning that Genealogy Adventures is becoming historic. It is becoming political because we are on history. We continue to teach and preach what our ancestors have done. Too many times, our stories are always being told that we were nothing but enslaved people. Too many times, we hear about how I don't want to be here about us being enslaved. Well, guess what? Yes, we were enslaved, but we also did so much more. And we also had so much more. And you're not
Mm-hmm.
being taught those stories. So, because
It
you're
hurts.
not being taught those stories, we're going to teach you those stories. We're going to let you know those stories. And unfortunately, it's going to be a part of the politics of it as well now. So,
Yeah.
Genealogy Adventures has now turned political. And y'all going to get it.
What
If you
I've
don't
And
like
learned is that you
it, then
can't
what?
fix the problem until you feel the pain.
That's it.
in
That's
this
it.
in this country, I'm not going to
Yes,
say that that's uniquely American, but I come across I won't react to anything until it literally bites me on my bum in this country.
that's it.
And
So the link that you see going across the thing right now is called fivecalls.org. And basically it is a link that will allow you to call your representatives, call and report everything that's going on. Y'all
Good.
make these calls.
Be
how
Make
lobbyists.
these
what they
calls.
are doing about NARA. Make that the point. If you're going to call, make that the point of your call. I'm
Yes.
concerned. What's going on?
Yes.
There,
Start making these
there's an
calls.
undercurrent right now of some people that are really getting ahead, getting on the ball to try to lobby for our interests at NARA, and I mean the genealogy world's interests. And we'll see how that goes. It's not been successful in the past, but let's put more effort behind it. We all need to
Yes.
get our, yeah, we need to push hard. Yeah,
Mhm. And I
it's
just
not going
wanted
to
to
be easy.
piggyback off of something that Donnie has said. Trust and believe. Donnie and I would rather be sitting here talking about helping you break through a brick wall.
Most
That's
most
what
definitely.
that's what we would prefer to do. Um,
Most definitely.
but reality, that conversation's a luxury for us right now.
Well, they're
Yeah,
making a brick. They're making another brick wall right now.
that's
That's the
what's
thing is they're
exactly.
creating a brick wall that I mean the brick wall of slavery and all that, the bondage, that all exists already. Now they're making it even harder by making it more difficult to even get started. Like,
Yeah,
they're dissuading people from learning and dissuading people from understanding, because the less they understand, the easier they are to keep in fear and control.
Mhm.
yeah. So due to the timing, we will not be able to get to these questions.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not just you, it's
Here I
all of
am.
us really trying to just get these things out here.
Here I am,
We
Brown. I just want to get yours.
but we will go online and we will go and answer as many of these questions as possible. But I want you guys to know, so keep writing, keep asking, keep doing it. You see, definitely make these phone calls. I will also put this link in the chat later, and we will definitely try to get to every last one of your
Yeah.
questions. But we really want you guys to get in there, start doing these scanning, and because we have to save our records, and unfortunately this had to be a last Black History show, and it had to be political, but we had to do what we had to do, and this is how we had to end it. Starting next month, we will start with Women's History Month, and we're gonna, we're looking into all of it, but do not be surprised if it's political in the process, because at this point, y'all, we are, like Brian said, he used the best word. We're in a coup, and everything that's happening with us, everything from losing all of the cultural months for all races to just everything is just mandatory. Did y'all know that there is actually a tracker for Project 2025? There's a tracker. People are tracking it, and he's like literally checking off a list. So it's you know, it's a
I
real
would like
It's a
thing.
to
dark
try to
time.
end this on something of a positive. I think one of the reasons why my call out struck a chord and it had such an overwhelming response is I underestimated the fear, the level of powerlessness that people were feeling. after the election. This
Mhm.
gave them something tangible that they could do at home if necessary, that they could latch on and really feel as though they were doing their bit. I wanted to call y'all citizen digitizers. I was asked not. I was asked not to, since the word community. But I really want people to feel as though they're doing their patriotic duty. They're doing their bit to save a small slice of invaluable American records.
I am the United States' first citizen archivist, given that title by the Archivist of the United States in 2010, not because I tried to be one. There wasn't something I tried to do. We created this together. This is citizens interacting with records, digitizing and sharing, talking about records, discussing records, and not just looking for the birthday, not just looking for mom or dad,
Mhm.
actually interacting and contextualizing records for people that live now.
Right.
Making
So
it
on
accessible is the most important thing because data is empowering.
yes. So
And that's
on
what
that
citizen
note,
archivists do. They do what the archivist can't. The archivist can't politicize their records. I can. You can. We can make them anything we want. We can put
that's
them out
right.
there and discuss them in any way we wish. And that's the
Awesome.
power of the access. So
And on
I
that note,
encourage
guys,
everyone
thank
to
you
follow
so much.
through with Brian's project right now.
That's right.
Go to the website for the museum and follow through. Click,
Uh,
click, click.
So
Thank
on
you.
that note, we'd like to thank everybody for joining us for these wonderful Black History Month shows that we've had, and we want you to just look out and get ready for Women's History Month. And thank you for just joining us this Sunday. Enjoy your day. I hope it was a little bit warmer for you. I'm Danya
I'm Brian, and we will see you next week, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
in all the
Love you.
same places. Bye,
Bye
everybody.
bye.